Ontario. Ontario is the province whose capital is Toronto. So we are going to read it loud for everyone who can't hear it. Then we'll have each one of us sign it and we'll deliver it to his office. Premier of Ontario Legislative Assembly, Queen's Park, Toronto. Dear Doug Ford, urgent call to address human rights violations and democratic erosion in Uganda. We Ugandans residing in the province of Ontario come to you with heavy hearts and deep concerns regarding the escalating human rights violations, democratic erosion, pervasive corruption, and alarming incidents of election violence in Uganda. As Ontario is home to a significant Ugandan migrant community, many of whom are political refugees fleeing persecution, our connection to these issues is profound and personal. The recent expulsion of Uganda from the African Growth and Opportunity Act trade agreement by President Joe Biden in January 1st, 2024, alongside visa restrictions imposed on Ugandan government officials complicit in undermining democratic processes, underscores the severity of the situation. In addition to that, the United States has issued a business advisory cautioning against operating in an environment rife with corruption, extreme discrimination, and minority groups and human rights abuses. Notably, the U.S. Department of Treasury imposed the Magnitsky sanctions of Uganda's Commissioner General of Prisons, Johnson Byabashaija, for his role in torture and human rights violations within correctional facilities. The United Kingdom has also recently sanctioned the Speaker of the Ugandan Parliament, Anita Among, the two high-profile Ugandan lawmakers, Mary Chitutu and Agnes Nandutsu, on grounds of corruption, and subjected them to travel bans and asset freezes under the UK's Global Anti-Corruption Sanctions regime. Despite these sanctions, the Museveni regime persists in its oppressive behavior. Numerous civilians, particularly those opposed to the regime, have been abducted and forcibly disappeared, with 18 opposition members still missing after nearly 4 years. The names of these individuals, including Moses Mbabazi, Dennis Zimula, Shafiq Wangolo, Martin Lukwago, Peter Chiria, John Jamulida, Michael Semudu, John Panata, John Bosco Chibalama, Vincent Nalumoso, Yuda Sempija, Musisi Mbowa, Mustafa Luwemba, Hassan Bubiru, Isma Sensazi, Godfrey Chisembo, George Kasumba, Joseph Baguma, and others must be forgotten, if not dead. Additionally, political opponents are arbitrarily detained and subjected to military trials, infringing upon their constitutional rights to due process. Notably, individuals subjected to this unconstitutional practice include Yasin Sech-Toleko, Robert Christopher Rugumayo, Ronald Mayiga, Patrick Mwase, Simon Chijambo, Abdul Matovu, Richard Nyombi, Olivia Lutaya, Ronald Chijambo, Sharif Kalanzi, Joseph Muwonge, Mesa Chiwanuka, Abdallah Chintu, Umar Emakato, Musa Kavuma, Ibrahim Wandera, Asbat Nagwere, Stephen Musakulu, Jimmy Galukande, Paul Mwanguzi, Kenneth Kamanya, Sharif Matovu, Shafiq Ngobi, Davis Mafari, Abdallah Hakim Gibusiwa, Livingston Katushabe Chigozi, Obalai Siraj Madebo, Joseph Muganza, and Stanley Luanga, among others. Attached for reference are human rights reports from the United States Department of State and Human Rights Watch detailing their situation in Uganda. We have a 2022 report attached and a 2023 report about Uganda. As Uganda approaches the 2026 presidential elections, the situation continues to deteriorate and poses a grave threat to the democratic process, exacerbating the plight of political refugees seeking safety abroad. In light of these dire circumstances, we implore the government of Ontario to investigate Uganda's activities responsible for the suffering of Ugandan immigrants in Ontario and Canada. We urge you to leverage your mandate to champion democracy and human rights by advocating for the following actions through the Canadian government and civil society organizations. 1. Impose targeted sanctions. Apply asset freezes and travel restrictions on specific Ugandan government officials complicit of human rights abuses. Call for repeal discriminatory legislation. Demand the immediate repeal of legislation in Uganda that perpetrates discrimination against minority individuals and undermines progress in combating HIV/AIDS. Support civil society organizations by increasing funding for Ugandan civil society organizations, advocating for human rights and democracy, empowering grassroots movements. We request you demand for electoral reforms, advocate for independent international election monitoring, and press for electoral reforms to ensure fairness, transparency, and inclusivity in the electoral process. Investigate regional involvement. We request you to investigate President Museveni's involvement in perpetuating violence in Eastern Congo, holding accountable those responsible for destabilizing the region. Protect freedom of expression. We request you to call for the repeal of laws restricting civil rights and liberties and ensure the protection of freedom of expression for all Ugandan citizens. Secure release of political prisoners. We request you demand the immediate release of all political prisoners and victims of post disappearances, upholding their right to due process and justice. And military trials. We request you demand for the halt of practicing and trying civilians in military courts, ensuring access to the fair trials and legal representation in accordance with the international standards. We appeal to the Ontario government to stand in solidarity with Ugandans in Ontario and Canada by advocating for these critical issues and measures. Moreover, we urge the Canadian government to take decisive action to promote democracy and protect human rights in Uganda. Thank you for your attention to this urgent matter. Together, let us uphold the principles of justice, dignity, and equality for all. Sincerely, the National Unity Platform Canada Chapter.
People power! Our power! Our power! People power! NUP! Everywhere! Everywhere! NUP!